my name's Matthew and I come from Cambridge in the UK. I've been living here in Guangzhou now for nearly 5 years, and I've been at Shinyway for a while as well, doing IELTS speaking training. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at what is IELTS, IELTS speaking in particular. So IELTS is the International English Language Testing System, and it is designed to assess the ability of candidates who need to study or work where English is the language of communication. It is recognised by universities and employers in many countries, including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK and the USA. Now, as today we're looking at the speaking test, I can tell you that it consists of a one-to-one interview with a specially trained examiner. The examiner will lead the candidate through 3 parts of the test. The first part is an introduction and interview. The second part is an individual long turn, where the candidate speaks for 2 minutes on a particular subject. The third part is a two-way discussion between the candidate and the examiner on a theme which is linked to part 2. The speaking module is the final part of the IELTS exam, and it does not need to be taken on the same day as the other modules. It is 11 to 14 minutes in length. Now we need to know what the marking criteria are for this, so that we can understand how to do the test well. So, the first criteria is fluency and coherence. This is talking about whether you express your ideas well in a clear and coherent way, and whether you pause a lot when you speak. The second one is lexical resources, your vocabulary. How big is your vocabulary when you're speaking? Then, there's grammatical range and accuracy. How good your grammar is. Do you use many structures? Do you use tenses? How many mistakes do you make? And pronunciation, okay? How easy are you to understand? Do you use English pronunciation features in a natural way? So we're going to look at each one of these in a bit more detail. Fluency and coherence, of course. A bad thing for this is long hesitations. I think okay, this clearly shows that you can't speak very fluently, and this will affect how people can understand you. In the same way, searching for words. Yes, I love going there because of the, how do you say that? This also doesn't help. And lastly, repetition. Okay, it is very good. Yes, really good. I like how good it is. Using the same word again and again shows a poor vocabulary and also affects your fluency. So, with the lexical resources, your vocabulary, we think about range, about word families, discourse markers, okay, different words that we use like apparently, as I was saying, basically, by the way, that can link our ideas together. Also, chunks and collocations, okay? Words and phrases that commonly go together and have a set meaning. So with our grammar range and accuracy, we think about long, complex sentences, if clauses, relative clauses. So these are clauses that use who, that, which, when. A good use of conjunctions like and, because, so. The ability to make comparisons. All the way throughout IELTS, they're looking to see that you can actually make comparisons. So this is a very important thing. And lastly, pronunciation. Okay? Are you putting sounds at the end of your words? Like, I like to develop my English. No. Okay? I like to develop my English. Many sounds in English you may also find difficult to pronounce, like a sound and its voiced counterpart, v, the j sound, and difficult sounds like th and z. These all need to be practiced. And of course the key is to be natural. So there are of course common topics we can expect in IELTS speaking test, and some of the most common are your hometown, your studies, your work, your free time and your family. And these are topics that you should all be very familiar with talking about when you get into the exam. For part 2 and part 3, usually the topics are related, but they can be more abstract than these basic 5 topics. So you have to be prepared for these as well. And if you come here, we can help you do that. Some general tips then for IELTS are to be confident. Okay? Very, very important. You shouldn't be too shy or speak too fast. Either way, if you're too shy, maybe the examiner can't hear you clearly. And if you speak too fast, also, they may be like, "Oh, what did he say? What did she say?" Also, don't just focus on your grammar. Grammar is of course important, but there are 4 areas we just looked at that they mark you on in your speaking. And fluency and coherence is just as important. So it's very important for you to think about how well you speak in terms of your fluency and not just focusing on grammar. Also, never answer your questions with just yes or no. It is vitally important to answer in full sentences. Even if you could answer yes or no, expand on it. Yes, I like this because blah blah blah. Make your answers more personal. Speak from your own experience. This is a great way to make your English seem more natural, and you'll find it much easier to talk about something that you know or something you have done than something you're not so familiar about. Also, try your best to use modal verbs like should, could, would, and the future tenses correctly. Don't memorize answers, because the examiner may change the topic. IELTS examiners can tell very quickly when they hear a memorized answer. So while you should familiarize yourself with structures and think about different ways you can express your ideas, you should spend time when you're preparing brainstorming different topics to think about the things you might be asked and what you could say, rather than memorizing answers. Of course, it's also good to avoid slang and very informal language, because it is an exam. Even though this is natural English, it is a formal setting, so it is good to use more proper English and not so much slang. Also, if you need to use names, especially if they are Chinese names, say them slowly and explain them. There may be some times in the exam when you need to use a name which is not an English name. And if this is the case, that's okay if you explain it very clearly in English. And of course, do not use words that you are not 100% sure about. You may think it sounds good, but actually, if it's the wrong word, it could sound very stupid when you speak it. So make sure you're just using words that you're very comfortable with. And lastly, don't change the topic. If they start to ask you about a city, you think, oh, I could talk about Beijing. And then you start to talk about Beijing. But then you start to talk about the Olympics, you will lose marks because they're not asking you about the Olympics, they're asking you about the city. So make sure you keep all of your answers on topic so that you don't lose any marks for going off. Okay, so today we've looked at what the IELTS speaking test is, how many parts it has, how you will be marked, and some basic general tips about this exam. I hope you found this helpful.